I don't like school. Every day, I had to wake up at least 6 a.m. And for the next 9 hours, I had to sit straight, look at the board, listen to the teachers, and follow all the instructions in class. That was so boring. But before I judge my personal statement, let me introduce myself first. Hi, my name is Lily Ariani, and it's such a great opportunity to appear in front of all of you and to share knowledge and ideas. Thank you, Mrs. Ira, for making me capable of doing this. And thank you, my dear friends, for always spending time to listen to me. Well, I suppose some of you can relate to my personal statement when I said, I don't like school. But the rest of you might think the opposite. School is fine. Why would you think that school is boring? But I believe those who say such thing are maybe less than 5% of the audience here. Because it's popular opinion that school is not a place where we can find happiness, right? Some famous people like Elon Musk and Sir Ken Robinson have criticized the school system, and that's why I'm very confident here to present to you my ideas. What is so wrong with schools, and what can we do to make our education system better? To figure out, my friends, first, let's talk about the problems in school. Problem number 1. School is not a friendly environment for learning. When I was in school, I didn't feel I learned. It was more like I competed. More than 200 students were faced with a standardized test and one-size-fits-all grading system. I had to spend extra time studying some subject which I wasn't really interested in, while I had no time to develop my hobby and creativity. I was forced to swim and run some kilometers for the physical education exam, while those fields of sport were not something I was capable of doing. All for one purpose, to just pass the test. And what I find funny yet disappointing at the same time about school is that schools often neglect their students because they fail academically when schools are supposed to be the place to learn. And to learn means to experience failure. It's ironic that schools disregard some students just because they're bad at science or any other subjects that becomes the standard to define a smart student. Problem number 2. Schools don't give the students enough preparation to face the real world. Schools teach so many subjects, but schools omit the discussion of personal finance, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and the practice of critical thinking, work ethic, and complex problem solving. Now, when I'm a 19-year-old teenager who's currently pursuing a degree in English language and literature, a bunch of subjects taught to me in school don't help me much to survive the reality of life. I still struggle to figure out about essential things in life like emotional intelligence and self-awareness because school didn't show me that the world is more than just math, physics, biology, etc. Those 2 problems are just some of the long list because if you look at the reality today, there are still so many problems happening in schools like the curriculum that is outdated, lack of funding, and many teachers that still lack intellectual and emotional guidance. As a part of the community of education, then how can we fix the school system and make a better quality of education? Well, there are some ways we can do to improve our school system. Number 1, we should redefine the purpose of education. The real goal of education should be the integral development of a person. Schools, as the instrument of education, should provide knowledge and skill through personal development of physical, social, intellectual, and emotional abilities. Schools, as the instrument of education, should help an individual to navigate life. However, as we look at today's school system, it seems to contradict the real goal of education. We know that schools value high grades more than the learning process, and therefore some students tend to cheat to get high grades. And as a result, students don't really learn. They don't really develop nor improve. Number 2, we need to upgrade the curriculum. As I said that school is boring, that's because the curriculum is outdated and it makes the learning activity less interesting. As the world constantly changes, new challenges come, and the demand for knowledge becomes bigger. Culture, industry, and technology change. We need to upgrade the curriculum to adapt to them. We need school to focus more on preparing students to face new challenges and to adapt to the new world. Number 3, we need cooperation between students, teachers, policymakers, and government. Each of them has a role. Students should be ready to study beyond the textbook, to study more complex topics based on real-world issues. Teachers should be well-trained and open to new skills and ideas. They should practice more intellectual and emotional guidance to dedicate their time nurturing future generations. Policymakers should update and revise the curriculum. And last, the government should provide more funding, proper facilities, and establish education equality so that schools become accessible for everyone. We know that many students go to school with no pleasure. We know that many students are overly stressed with overload assignments and hours of learning. Many students lose their opportunities to develop their talent and uniqueness because they are forced to fit the standard of what defines a smart student. Many students graduate from school to just find out that they know nothing about the real world. That's because school's objective is no longer the right one for today's world and society. Aren't those enough to prove the urgency to bring a revolution in our education system? We need school as a friendly place to learn. We need school as a place that recognizes every individual's uniqueness. We need school as a place which some failure is something allowed. We need school as a place that is not judgmental. We need school as a place for kids and teenagers to learn without losing happiness. Thank you.